Hello, class 7th. Here is Kaushalya Rajpurohit, your social science teacher, and today we are going to discuss chapter 8, the tribal communities. Now, the society during the medieval period underwent into many changes, and there were two types of society. The first one was the caste based society, in which people were divided into high or low caste, and the second one was the tribal society, which did not follow the caste rules. Right? So there were two types of communities during the medieval period, and in this chapter, we are going to know about the tribal communities. Tribal society. We know a very little about the tribal society during the medieval period because the tribal people did not keep the records, right? They only preserved everything, their customs, tradition orally. The tribal people also did not let any outsider into their area of habitation, and the tribal people generally lived in remote areas such as a dense forest, hills, mountains, and deserts, which were extremely difficult to reach. That's why we know very little about this tribal society. Occupations. The tribal people were engaged in agriculture, herding, and hunting gathering. They depended on natural resources of region they lived in. There were also people following other professions who traveled from one place to other place selling their goods or entertaining people with songs or folk tales, right? So the main occupation of these tribal people was agriculture, herding, or hunting gathering. And some of them also traveled and sold goods and entertained people. Now, some of the tribal society. Now, we have little information about this tribal society, and some of these tribal groups will be discussing here. There were many tribal groups, each had its own distinct custom, belief, and lifestyle. In Northwest, Baluchi tribe was powerful. In Punjab, the Khokhars and Ghakkars were the main tribe. In the western parts were the Bhils and Kolis, and in the central India, Gonds controlled the large territories. Towards the east, the Cheros, Mundas, Santhals, Khasis, Nagas, and Ohms were the main tribal groups. Okay, so these are the different types of tribal groups during the medieval period. Life of the nomadic tribal groups. Most of the tribal people were nomads. They moved about with their animals. When the supply of the food for these animals got exhausted in an area, they moved to another area. They can be called nomadic or traveling traders. They traveled with their families in big groups. Contemporary records tell us that they transported grain from villages to towns on bullock carts. They also reared and sold animals such as horses and cattle to the people of the town they visited. Changing nature of the tribal society. With the time, tribal groups were exposed to new culture. As a result, they slowly began to change their isolated lifestyle. Many of them began to lead a settled life and adopted better method of groups. And some of the tribal people become very strong, dominant, right? And most dominant tribal societies or tribal groups during these periods were Gonds and Ohms, right? So let us discuss about these tribal groups in detail. Gonds. Now, Gonds are one of the most powerful tribal communities in Central Asia. The name Gond probably comes from Telugu word Konda, which means a hill. From an early time, they had been living in the upper Narmada Valley and the neighboring forest area, which had many hills. This region is also called Goldwana. Several Gond kingdoms came up in Mughal times. According to Akbarnama, Ghar Katanga was one of the most powerful kingdoms of its time. Now, the Gond society got divided into many unequal social groups. The administrative system also changed to meet the needs of the larger kingdoms. It became more centralized. The Gond kingdoms were very rich. They also exported elephants to the other kingdom including Mughal. And the Gond kingdom survived for very long time, but gradually they lost their power. The Firstly, Marathas defeated them and took over some of their territories, and then English took over the Gondwana in the 19th century. So, this was about the Gond tribal. Now, the next is Oghams. Oghams were the tribal community who established kingdom in the region of present-day Assam. The name Assam is probably derived from the word Ogham. The originally homeland of Oghams may have been China. From there they migrated to Burma, and in 13th century they came to Assam, which was earlier known as Kamarupa. The first Ogham king was probably Sukhappa. He ruled for 40 years from 1228 to 1226. Oghams expanded their territories by defeating the local rulers. They also fought against the Mughals. Aurangzeb managed to conquer the Gargaon, the Ogham capital, but was unable to keep it under his control for long. In theory, however, the Oghams ruled as vassals of the Mughal. Rudra Singh was the most powerful Ogham ruler. He ruled from 1696 to 1714. He and later rulers compiled the Bur- Burunjis or Ogham historical works. In 19th century, Assam became a part of British India. The Oghams still live as a small tribal group in Assam, right? So this is all for today, right? In this chapter we discuss about the tribal communities, their occupations, and the important tribal groups which became dominant during the medieval period. I hope you have understood the topic. Thank you.